You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!
Gonna stick you in the eye with a foreign object. Gonna poke you in the eye with a foreign object.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a bonus edition of the Blue Thunder Pod. I'm your host, Billy Sullivan, and today I'm going to be talking about AEW All Out 2024. Giving my star reviews and just brief thoughts on each match and the show in general. And then I have a little extra bonus material, the PWI Top 500 wrestler list happened to drop earlier today. Excuse me. And I have many thoughts about not necessarily the ranking of any individual wrestlers, but about the list in general and how they do things. And I think I may have uncovered a little something nefarious about the list as well. So we'll get to that after the All Out review. So to start things off, AEW All Out 2024 emanated from the Now Arena, formerly the Sears Center, in the most magical place on earth, the Chicago suburbs. This Hoffman Estates, Illinois, to be specific, at the very same arena that I witnessed MJF and CM Punk have their first match, which is apropos, I think, for me to mention that here, because something on this show, I think, actually is challenging MJF Punk for the greatest story that AEW has told in their history. The show is performed in front of a packed house of about 9,000 people. I say that, I'll say I was a little nervous about the attendance here, because you want a hot crowd, like a big packed house, loud, hot crowd for pay-per-views, because it adds to the dynamic of the show. And unfortunately, some of the bad faith actors, be they former or current under the employ of WWE, like Legends contracts people, or people that wanted to try to get jobs with the AEW and were rebuked, Bischoff, took to their podcasts and to Twitter like a day before All Out to tell everybody that, oh, this is the first pay-per-view that's going to not be close to a sellout. It's going to be terrible attendance, and that could not have been further from the case. And they just kind of self-owned themselves as shills for the other company in doing that, and then being proven wrong almost immediately after. But the crowd was great. Awesome chants throughout the night, as Chicago crowds are wont to do, and kept up the level of heat pretty much throughout the show. There was like one match that the fans were kind of dead for, and it probably deserved it. The first match of the night was MJF versus Daniel Garcia. They went 23 minutes. It was a brutal as hell match. I'll say this. Had I not watched the rest of this show, I'd say this match was brutal as hell, because it would have been the most brutal match on most cards, at least cards that don't have like death matches booked, because this was the Danny Garcia revenge match. Daddy Magic was on commentary. He brings a ton of emotionality to any match that Garcia's in, especially this one, because the story being that MJF tried to break Garcia's neck with top rope pile driver prior to the last story that MJF was doing. And Garcia was out for a while and kayfabe injured. Now he's back for blood. And they beat the shit out of each other. It was a brutal match. It was not a weapons match or anything, but Garcia was bloodied, and they're both so good at selling that I bought that both were like really brutalized by the end of the fucking match. I did notice Max is doing a different heel character than he was his first heel run. I was a little concerned when he first, when MJF first turned back heel, that he was just going to go back to doing what he had been doing. But I should have known better than that, because that dude is always evolving, and I think he's probably the smartest wrestler working, as far as like planning stuff out, not ever throwing anything away, thinking way, way, way ahead of time as far as like what direction he wants to take his character. And he's now, the heel character he's doing here is more of like a final boss monster, Triple H homage. I mean, he came back with the fucking stupid jacket from Triple H's Awesome Return that time. So he kind of signposted it for us, but MJF is not doing the chicken shit heel thing anymore. He's doing the final boss heel, which is good because it's different. It's an evolution of the character, and it makes sense because he's angry. His anger is driving him because of what happened when he let his guard down and it bit him in the ass. And now he's apoplectic about it, and that's the way that the character's working. Danny Garcia's got that like intangible thing too, where even if he doesn't have a ton of heat at the start of the match, the fans inevitably just get behind him because he is like, it's easy to have empathy for him. I think it's because of the way he sells, but it's like without fail. By the end of or by the midpoint at any one of his matches, the crowd is like in the palm of his hand, which is great. Danny Garcia lost, as I predicted, via MJF cheating. And I'm sure people are like, oh, you're killing the Garcia push again. Again, he's 25 years old. I do think he's capable of being towards the top of a card. And there are some speculations to whether he had resigned. The hell country am I from? He had re-signed with AEW yet, and perhaps they had him not go over in this match because he had not re-signed. I have a suspicion that is not the case, and that he has in fact re-signed, because post-match they gave him like what would be the kindest write-off that they've ever given, that any wrestling promotion's ever given anybody. Because he lost the match, but then I beat the shit out of MJF and exacted his revenge by doing the top rope pile driver on MJF, who apparently is taking some time off to shoot a movie. But it was a good way to write him off, and it made Garcia look great. So I don't think they would do that if he was leaving the company to go to NXT or whatever. And also, Danny Garcia is, as MJF pointed out, an Ozempic addict looking motherfucker. So I don't think that would fly in the WWE. Even in NXT, everybody's giant. And I think Danny Garcia recognizes that. And what his strengths are what the company he's currently in values. So I think he probably, if not resigned already, I think he probably will. Who knows? Maybe we'll see him pop up elsewhere in WWE. Well, I'm sure it would be NXT at first, but and get that bag. Whoever offers you the most money, that'd be, I'm happy for you, because I'm a Garcia guy. But the way that this match ended, or post match ended, I suspect he's sticking with AEW. 4.5 stars for the opener. Great way to start the show. Next up was the AEW World Tag Team title match. Young Bucks, Matthew Jackson and Nicholas Jackson. I am reticent to call them EVPs at this point because if they have power, they certainly don't wield it anymore. One of the worst things about AEW currently TV, and it's among a lot of good stuff. I think in general the shows have been fantastic, and definitely on the upswing like this entire year. But this authority figure thing is bullshit, and I'm tired of seeing Frito-Lay sales rep Christopher Daniels doing his bullshit on TV. I have no idea what Matthew or Nicholas Jackson's like amount of power, if there is any, is. I know that they're on like a limited contract, like a Roman Reigns contract, where they are only, have to work so many dates, but you could still tell stories, good stories around those dates. And they're like aesthetic and their song and that stuff all works. It works incredibly well, which is why like right off the bat, it was great, but then it petered out like a motherfucker. And, the song still kicks ass. Their look still kicks ass. But they got to do some storytelling with these two. They're the tag champs. You got to do some storytelling with them. Anyway, they faced off against the Blackpool Combat Club, this iteration being Claudio Castagnoli and the always fabulous Wheeler Yuta. This match was good, not great, which is becoming kind of a hallmark of this current Bucks run. I don't know if it's whether it's that they're a little bit older and cannot quite have we're always going to have the match of the night pace that they had from basically the inception of AEW through like the end of 2021. Also, it's hard to match the rest of the card now because there's so much talent there. But they may also be working this slowed down, not as exciting style intentionally as a story thing, which I'm cool with that. But it does make for good, not great matches. I will say Claudio looked pretty good here. Wheeler Yuta always is positively radiant. And I also think that they held back from doing story stuff during this match because of a thing that happened that was going to happen later on in the show. And that was a smart move too. But because of all that, this essentially was a Dynamite match, like a very good Dynamite match. 3.5 stars. Bucks retained. Next up was the AEW International title match between Will Bloody Ospreay and the Bastard Pack. This match was, I'm pretty sure, CGI, because two human beings should not be able to move or bump in the way that they did. If it wasn't for Will Ospreay himself already having wrestled the Danielson match and the Takeshita match this year, this would be the match of the year probably. That said, I am going to change. I decided I'm going to change my star rating scale when it comes to Will Ospreay. Not to do the Meltzer thing where I go up to 7, 8 stars or whatever, because that makes Dane's every other review I've given meaningless. Sticking to 5 stars, but I'm going to start grading the Billy Goat on a curve. If his match, any given match, starting with this one, like pay-per-view match, is not in the conversation or among my finalists for match of the year, I'm not going to give him 5 stars anymore, because otherwise he just is going to get 5 stars in every match, and that's boring. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the thing where at the end of the year, like 80% of the 5-star matches that I've reviewed are Will Ospreay matches. So from here on out, like match of the night, which, many people considered this match to be, is not going to get 5 stars. It's gonna have to be a match of the year contender. So I gave it 4 3/4. My favorite thing that happened in the match, I think, was these two doing just a crazy inhuman spot. I think it was like the top rope avalanche, Hurricane Rana or Poison Rana. Osprey flipped out of and landed on his feet. Anyway, when they were setting up for it and both standing on the top rope, Nigel McGuinness said, just please don't die, which just popped me. I thought that was quite amusing. Oh, congrats to Nigel. Pro Wrestling Illustrated also released their, other tiered lists, and Nigel won Best Color Commentator in Pro Wrestling. Didn't agree with any of the rest of that list, but I do think I agree that Nigel's the best color guy working right now. And I hopefully gets back in the ring pretty soon again, because that was dope as hell at All In, seeing him wrestle. Next on the docket was the Chicago Street Fight, and I am sorry to say they did not do the fight on Kedzie. They did not do the fight on Halstead, nor Pulaski, nor Cicero. It was not on the Dan Ryan or the Stevenson. It was just in the arena. So I think the Chicago Street Fight name nomenclature was a little misleading because it was just a death match. That being said, holy fucking shit, it was the best death match I've ever seen between two women. Racked my brain trying to think of other contenders for that crown, but there's nothing even close. AEW generally does a nice job of these like hardcore matches in the women's division, but doing these hardcore matches in the women's division, and they've had quite a few pretty good ones. This one is like far and away the best. It's one of the best hardcore matches or death matches, whatever you want to call it, I've ever seen from anybody. I've heard people throwing around comparisons to the Mike Awesome Masato Tanaka series, and yeah, I think it's right there. It was not just brutal in the weapons that they used. There was a light tube spot, for Christ's sake, but it was also super precise. There was essentially one botch in the entire match, and the botch made the match better because Statlander she set up a table on the outside, put Willow on it, and then climbed to the top rope, top turnbuckle, and did a swanton. Willow rolled out of the way, but didn't roll far enough. And Statlander, the back of her heel, hit Willow's head, but just knocked the shit out of her, smashed her head into the ground. It looked scary as hell. Thankfully, Willow got up and didn't have like glassy eyes like she was concussed. So I don't think she was concussed, and it actually just added to the match. These two are incredible together. The other spot I wanted to mention, Statlander went for an axe kick and missed it, but ended up landing in a full splits onto thumbtacks, which were had been previously dumped onto the canvas. Statlander wins this one. Shout out to Stuss for an idea he had. I agree with him. I think the booking should give these two a story that has the depth and breadth and stakes that the Hangman Swerve story had, because they've proven here that when it comes to the physicality of it, they can take it there. So give them the story, give them that, like, the real reason to hate each other. Because right now it's just, I hate you because you were my friend and you turned your back on me. And that's not enough to warrant what these two are capable of putting out in this kind of a match. Fucking ruled. Also, I had this thought. I think if Chris Statlander wanted to, and I don't think she will or that they'll do it, but a testament to her that I think that they could, if they wanted to do it. I think that she could do a WWE China style run where she wrestles and beats men regularly. And I would 100% buy it. I mean, you're not putting her in there with like Powerhouse Hobbs, but like against most of the roster, they're not, the men's roster, and they're not huge dudes. Statlander she is as powerful as most of the like male wrestlers. She moves as abruptly and works as precisely as anybody, man or woman, on the roster. I think she's the best female wrestler on earth right now, for me. I mean, of course, there's like the Joshi wrestlers that I don't see very much. I see highlights of, and they're all incredible, but I can't keep up on all of that. But in my universe, I think Stat's the best female wrestler. It's a close call between her and Bianca Belair, but Statlander, just the way that she elevates her opponents, and the sheer impact and power at which she delivers her moves, the way that she sells, it's just, Bianca's a little bit better athlete, Statlander's stronger, and she is just in the total package. I would love to see her, if they don't continue this feud, move on to a world title feud, because Stat versus anybody, fuck, it's awesome, but Stat versus Mariah would be great. This was a 5-star match. It was my personal favorite match of the night. I wouldn't call it match of the night, just in general, but my match of the night. I had more fun with this than anything else that happened on this card. And I've gone back and rewatched it more times than I've watched anything else that happened on the card. And you'll find out why by the end of this. Next up was the AEW Continental Title 4-way match, because apparently the Bucks do not have any power, executive power, so they had to stand idly by where their boy Kazuchika Okada had to defend his title against 3 other guys unfairly. Those 3 other guys being, of course, the ones that I predicted: Konosuke Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, and Orange Cassidy. Fun match. Could have been a great Dynamite main event, to be honest. The highlight of the match was a teased face-off between Okada and Takeshita, which was very obviously the match that everyone wants. I very much want that too. I don't know if they want to pin Okada yet. He is, I still believe, thusly undefeated in AEW. But boy, that'd be a nice rub for Takeshita, that push that everybody's calling for, to pin Okada. Give them a series of matches. Who cares? Like, I could watch those two. I've never seen them wrestle each other, but I guarantee you it'll kick ass because they are who they are. And that'd be a great way to elevate Takeshita finally out of just the Don Callis ever expanding family to the top of the card. Put a belt on him. And then let him defend it in the C2. Have him go in as the Continental Champ and then win the tournament as well. That'd be a rocket strap type of shit right there for Konosuke, who, an argument can be made for him as the best wrestler on earth. So it's time. 3.5 stars for this one. Like I said, fun match. But just like a mid of the card fun match. Could have been a really good Dynamite main event. Next up was the AEW TBS title match. Mercedes Money with Camille banned from ringside against Hikaru Shida. This was a good match. Although not as good as the one that they had, these two had on TV a few weeks ago. It was a good match right up until the fucked up, botchy ass finish that everybody is getting wrong. People, I've seen in the discourse people saying, "Oh, Mercedes fucked up the ending because she was trying to hold her wig on her head." I don't think these people actually watch the shows, or if they do, they're on their phones or something, because what very clearly happened was towards the end of the match, Shida did her axe kick thing. She did a series of them, and what happened was 2 of them just fully ass landed on on the side of Mercedes' head. And she was fucking pissed off and kind of fucked up. She rolled out of the ring after a weird kick out, And people are, on about, oh, he's trying to keep her wig on. No, she was holding her head because she got kicked in the side of the fucking head. Anyway, botchy finish. It was a weird story they told in this match too. Shida was like going back and forth. Am I going to use the kendo stick or not? Like she's a heel? I don't know. It was not a story that was told up until this match. Without the botchy finish, I would say it would still have been a successful match. But with the combination of it being the botchy finish because of the big potato that Mercedes ate, and also the fact that we saw this match but better on TV like a couple of weeks ago, 2 3/4 stars is the best I can go for this match. It was the weakest of the card, and had the least heat too. Plus, I was hoping for somebody else to join the Mercedes, what would become a stable, because they need a mouthpiece, because the two of them, Camille and Mercedes, just can't talk. So yeah, bring in a mouthpiece and make it a stable. Next up is what AEW would have you believe was the main event of the evening. Although, in my world, it's not the case, because as you fine listeners well know, I am of the firm and staunch belief that there's only one main event for any given event. Like WrestleMania, the last match on the second night is the only main event. Nothing else is the main event. They were calling this like a double main event or a main event and then an unsanctioned thing. The last match was the main event. So this was not. What this was a very good match between the best wrestler in the world. Go check out the Blue Thunder Guy YouTube channel if you'd like to see my mathematical breakdown and proof positive that Bryan Danielson is the greatest wrestler that's ever lived. And that was on full display against Jack Perry. It was a really good match. I will say, and it was a better match than most people, I think, in the discourse are giving it credit for. Not because they are like intentionally undermining these two or in bad faith or anything. What I think is that the angle that occurred post match overshadowed what happened in the ring, despite what happened in the ring being very good. I'll talk about that in a second. But as far as this match itself goes, very well worked. I will say I think that they need a pivot for Jack Perry. I think that the booking has done a ton of great work for him as far as story and character goes. I don't think they wasted the CM Punk footage. I think that was a good idea to develop that scapegoat character. But I don't buy him as the type of heel that he is currently trying to portray himself as. I think like his ring work still lends itself to like babyfacedom, and his good looks lend themselves to babyfacedom. I mean, shit, like I find his hair very luxurious and attractive, and I don't even go that way. And by that way, I mean curly hair. I usually don't go for curly hair, but his is sexy as hell. But like that kind of a babyface, especially with the smaller stature, I think if you want to go heel, it has to be more of a sneaky or like early MJF style heel, where you're doing every little underhanded fucking thing, and it would work well with that, like the thing that is most famous, with this run of his, that shit-eating grin. Do that when you're doing cheeky ass like cheater stuff. He's trying to do like a badass heel kind of thing, where like I just won't quit, and he put his hands out to the sides when he knew that the Busaiku knee was coming, and it just doesn't work. Like that heel character doesn't work with the story they've told around that character. He just got to be more of a piece of shit. Like, I know maybe he just wants to look cool all the time, but it would behoove him to not look so cool and just become like a underhanded, actual, like cheating ass chicken shit heel. Anyway, Danielson won. What was still a very good match. 27 minutes long. The big deal, though, that happened was the post-match angle. The patriarchy tried to come down and cash in their Wish.com Money in the Bank briefcase thing. And out comes, lo and behold, out comes Jon Moxley and stops them in their tracks. They turn around and head back out. And then Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and the Bastard Pack all come into the ring and are celebrating with Danielson, at least momentarily, until Claudio turns and wallops Danielson with the European uppercut. And the way that Danielson sold this was maybe my favorite thing about this angle. He didn't sell it like, ouch, I'm that hurt, or excuse me, he didn't sell it like, why would you do this to me? He sold it like you would if one of your best friends just out of nowhere fucking punched you in the face. His expression said, what is going on? I don't understand what's happening right now. And then what came next was the probably most controversial thing on the card. Moxley grabbed a clear plastic bag, the type you see in like mafia movies used by hitmen to kill their victims sometimes. And he put it over Danielson's head, at which point the crowd chanted, "This is murder," which that was amusing, but it was gross feeling. It felt like a transgression, which it's what they were going for, and it worked for me. I understand how it would not work for everybody, because it did feel like a full, true transgression. Felt almost like too over the top. I saw some people complaining about, why didn't you tear the bag? And I think there is the explanation there is like, yeah, if you're going full bore with the plastic bag murder thing, yes, you should like zip tie his hands behind his back. But with the amount of shit that they've caught for just the plastic bag, I think it was a wise choice not to do the full on zip tied hands, like mafia hitman thing. It also reminded me of a scene from a movie that nobody saw called Four Brothers with Marky Mark, where one of the titular brothers kill somebody by doing, they put the same type of bag that was used on Danielson, plastic bag over his victim's head, and then uses a belt, like a leather belt, to cinch it around their neck. And the person dies, and then the brothers joked that no matter how many times we do this to people, it never ceases to amaze me that everybody always goes for the belt. Nobody ever thinks to tear the bag. So that sprung to mind. I think that coming out of this, there was a great heel turn. Moxley's got to stop coming through the crowd now. Shout outs to us. But great heel turn. I'm very excited for what this is going to lead to. I'm very excited that the Blackpool Combat Club, at least as was always constructed, is dead. Oh yeah, by the way, Wheeler Yuta was trying to aid his fallen friend Danielson and mentor, and was actually like in tears, sobbing as a psychotic Pac held him back while Danielson was being suffocated. So that was a nice little touch. But the Blackpool Combat Club is dead, at least as we knew it is dead. I really think that they need to have a different name for whatever this stable is that seems to right now consist of Moxley, Claudio, Pac, Marina Shafir. And Moxley is going to continue his pursuit of Darby, but I think now the way that that's going to play out is Darb is going to side with his hometown boy in Danielson, and And I think ultimately Darby might be the guy that retires Danielson. Not retire. People keep saying retire, and are conveniently missing the fact that every single time Danielson says it, he says retire from full-time wrestling, which means for him, he'd probably be on like 6 pay-per-views a year. But I think that Darby will be the guy that does that. And I think that'll happen after they team up, because they're both baby faces. They're both from the same area. And the vibe wouldn't be right for Darby in the current, whatever the Moxley stable is called. Because he's a psycho, but only as far as putting his own body at risk. He's not like an evil psycho. He's a very over baby face. And it would be silly to turn him heel at this point. Now you have a number of good heels in this company. Darby should win the title at some point in the next calendar year as a babyface. He kind of is like the embodiment of what AEW tries to be. So I think that's what's going to happen, and that's exciting. And it also will be exciting to see who else joins if in fact Darby does join up with Danielson to take on the shout out Frankie, the BBC, the new faction, and see who else joins Darby and Danielson. Maybe a returning Swerve, another Seattle native. That'd be pretty dope. Anyway, the next thing that we got was the actual main event of the evening, despite the fact that Justin Roberts got on the mic and right before the match said this is an unsanctioned lights out steel cage match, and thusly AEW takes no responsibility for what is about to happen here. That it just added a little it was kind of cool. It added a little more mystique to what was about to happen. It made it feel more dangerous. And boy howdy,
oh my God,
was this shit dangerous. It turned out to be pretty much like nothing I've ever seen before. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that in a Will Ospreay did a move and it's a thing I've never seen before. This was a match that was worked in a way that I've never seen. And it elicited a reaction from the crowd, the live crowd, and from myself that I don't think I've ever seen. It wasn't my favorite because it was like an uncomfortable match to watch, but it was undeniably spectacular and in the way that these guys executed. I tried to execute each other right at the start of the match, but executed the story that was being told and what they did. There was a moment where Hangman brought in a shard of wood from Swerve's childhood home that he had burned down. Swerve got a hold of it eventually and was using it on Hangman, and he was screaming and crying as he was doing it. Just incredible acting performances from both these guys. There was the spots were there too. There was a cinder block spot where Swerve brought in a cinder block and then showed us that it was a real cinder block by cleverly dropping it from head height to show that it did react like an actual non-gimmicked cinder block would when it landed on the mat. And eventually Swerve got powerbombed onto the cinder block in a very Darby Allin onto the ring stairs type of way. I thought that was actually the nastiest spot because it brought with it the most potential for actual injury. But there were definitely grosser, more visceral looking ones, i.e. the million staple gun staples that they were just stapling pictures to each other. Swerve stapled a picture of his family to Hangman's face. And then the way that the match ended was Hangman retrieved from somewhere a hypodermic needle that he pulled out Swerve's grill, and then stuck the needle through the inside of Swerve's cheek, poked it through to the outside of his cheek. So then Swerve is then on his knees, notably having not begged for his life, which Hangman, that's what he promised and that's what he demanded. But he was infuriated because Swerve refused to beg. But on his knees, got a needle through his face, and Hangman hits him with a giant chair shot to the head. I'm not a fan of unprotected chair shots to the head, and neither was a lot of the discourse. But again, I suspect there's a lot of people that didn't actually watch the show because despite it sounding great and looking great in live when it happened, in retrospect, and if you watch the replays and stuff, the chair was very clearly gimmicked like a motherfucker. It was off its hinges. So like the seat part of the chair, the part that hit you in the head, just flopped up. Like he was not hit very hard at all. It just made a great sound. And they implemented the WWE tactic of cutting away right as the impact occurred. So it, in real time, it just felt like a brutal unprotected chair shot to the head, when in actuality, if you watched it, that's not what it was at all. But it did work as far as like the story of the match. I would say like by the end of this match, it was not fun, but what it did was made me feel sadness for like both guys, which I definitely have never felt in a wrestling match before. I felt it in movies, like tragic movies, stories being told, where I feel, I'll feel sadness for both the protagonist and antagonist or whatever. But this was the first wrestling match that ever made me feel that way, which is why I say it's like nothing I've ever seen before. It was not my favorite match of the night. It was the ladies hardcore match because it was the most fun, but it was the best match of the night. And as far as like character stuff goes, it's the best of the year. And I would say that the Swerve Hangman story feud is really rapidly approaching MJF CM Punk for the best / my favorite AEW feud story of all time. I already think it has surpassed Hangman and Kenny, which a lot of people consider the next best one. 5 golden stars for this match. There was another moment right after the match concluded. Hangman is in victory, is walking up the ramp. Swerve is just a like puddle of goo, just left laying in the ring. And Hangman is like clearly internally debating, should I go back to the ring and finish the job and kill this guy? And he did actually start taking a few steps back down from the ramp towards the ring, at which point the entire crowd like audibly gasped, and I think it was a woman, let out of like just a visceral scream, like a horrified scream, like a horror movie. Oh God, no, please no, type of scream. Maybe that was a plant because it worked so well with the story, but it really worked on me. And at that point, that's kind of what seemed to indicate to Hangman, like, okay, no, I've done the job already. And so at that point, he started to walk back up the ramp to leave. And before he did, he let out this just absolute guttural, maniacal scream, like into the heavens. And it was something. It was moving. It was impressive. Actually, after the show went off the air, people took some cell phone footage of Hangman also had an internal debate as to whether to go back through the babyface tunnel, which he had been coming out the babyface tunnel this entire time. And he stopped and changed his mind and actually exited through the heel tunnel. So as a little Easter egg, I think that's kind of a cool thing too. And I'm very excited to see where they go with this Hangman character. I think he's does the best character work in the whole company, and is one of the best actors I've ever seen in pro wrestling. That dude is the total package. And I probably should start considering him more when I'm talking about who the best wrestler in the world is. Because he doesn't just bring it in the ring. He brings it in all facets and tells an incredible story both in the lead in to and during the match of the feuds that he has. I personally, so just the show in general, I loved this show, but I absolutely understand why some wrestling fans could hate it. For me, it was better than All Out. It's like a top 3 pay-per-view of the year, but this was just an absolute horror show. It was like a horror movie version of a wrestling show. And how brutal it was from top to bottom. And I can see, like, especially people that are bigger WWE fans are more used to and enjoy the more curated, like homogenized, safe kind of wrestling show. Like a show that you can like show your kids to. This was not that. This was violent as fuck, but violence fucking rules. I loved ECW back in the day, and this show felt transgressive. I hope that they continue All Out as a show that is the transgressive show on their calendar every year. They're actually doing a full month in between All In and All Out, thank Christ, next year. And I hope that All Out again is the deathmatch show, the Bloodfest. Somebody, forgive me, somebody on Twitter, I do not remember her name, had a great point. She said that All In is for dreams, All Out is for nightmares. And I think that's an awesome theme. And hopefully Tony Khan can stay fucking focused enough to let that theme continue throughout the years going forward. Because it does seem like AEW is going to be around for a while. Now that there's word out there that they're in talks with Fox potentially, which I don't know if I like or not, because if they do capitalize on WWE leaving Fox and they get a show, as is rumored on Fox, they will get way more popular. They're gonna just have way more fans, regardless of whether it's good or bad programming. Just by putting it on Fox, it's just in a zillion more households. So like if they do end up doing that and they do become more popular, I'm a little afraid that they're going to try to then change the product to cater to a wider audience, which is not what I want. I want the alternative. I want the challenger brand. I want the company that can do a pay-per-view like this, once a year. Anyway, incredible show for me. The crowd had as much to do with that as anything else. And that is because it was in Chicagoland, my friend. And of course, the crowd was fantastic. But as I said, I understand why some people had a problem with and could have a problem with a show like this. I would never show it to my daughter, for example. All right, so that's All Out 2024. The other thing I wanted to talk about, just because it happened to drop, is the PWI Top 500 list that everybody makes a big goddamn deal out of every year. And every year when the list comes out, it's really weird, and it confuses the shit out of everyone. Nobody seems to understand what the list actually is, myself included, and PWI included. Because among the weird things about this list, in general, I don't really care about the rankings, themselves. I don't care where any individual wrestler is ranked, because I, have my own list. But what I do care about is what the list is in general, because it is so ubiquitous and such a big deal and gets shared so much and talked about so much in the wrestling community. It makes me crazy because it's got so many weird fucking stupid things about it. For example, by their own words, the PWI Top 500 list is only supposed to encompass in kayfabe. So like the list exists in kayfabe essentially, whereas it has nothing to do with who is the best pro wrestler or the best like Mike or anything. Like all it is within the world of kayfabe who has had the best year, and across every promotion except Sans one, which I'll get to at the end, which was my big discovery. But across different promotions, which it's impossible to really do that because they don't themselves like really differentiate one promotion over the other, regardless of the size. It's just random. Like one world champ is ahead of another world champ. Like despite the size of the companies they work for, or like a guy who'll be the champ for like right now, and he's on the list, like Nick Nemeth was higher on the list, or he's like number 22 on the list, Nick Nemeth, because he's the current AAA world champ. But the guy that he beat, Alberto El Patron, who carried the title for longer, is not on the entire 500 list. Not even on the list. I know he's an asshole, but like that's not part of your criteria, PWI. It's supposed to be kayfabe. They then sometimes like ignore their own rules too. They put Mustafa Ali like high on the list, who is currently not signed to any promotion. So there is no kayfabe for him. And the only title that he held was like a secondary championship for a tiny little indie fed that's based out of LaSalle, Illinois, which as a Chicago guy, I can tell you LaSalle, Illinois is too far away to even be considered a suburb of Chicago. Is a tiny little town in central Illinois. And like Mustafa's got that belt, like their Intercontinental Championship, or at least the equivalent. And that's the only title he won. He did put on like a shitload of bangers across a bunch of different indie promotions this past year, but that's not supposed to matter according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. It's supposed to just be kayfabe. So like, why would Ali be on the list at all? Also, the time frame that it covers, that their top 500 covers, is fucking stupid. It starts August 1st and ends July 31st. Just do the calendar year. Stop being cute, you stupid jerks, and make up your mind about what your thing is. It's crazy how much people bitch about Dave Meltzer and his just honest opinions about like what he thinks of wrestling matches that he watches. And nobody ever bitches about this stupid list. Meltzer, just disagree with him. That's fine. At least he's being honest and earnest in what he's doing. This PWI is not really honest, doesn't really tell you anything because they go against their own rules when they're making the list. Some notable stuff from the list itself. Cody was at number 1. That's fine. Like that makes sense. He's the top champ in the biggest promotion. Not undisputed champ. That's fucking stupid. Words matter. But he is the top champ on the biggest show, the biggest promotion. So he can be number 1. That's fine. I will say I'm not going to forget all you Cody crybabies who thought that Cody was dog shit like 2.5 years ago, despite the fact that he was doing exactly the same thing that he's doing right now. He just wasn't over with it. I loved him then too. Swerve number 2, that makes sense. Great champion, like world title run in the next biggest American promotion. But then Ospreay was number 3, which doesn't make any fucking sense because it's supposed to be in kayfabe and Ospreay's only won a secondary title. There are other world champs further down on the list. Damian Priest should have been ahead of Ospreay according to their rules. Samoa Joe should be ahead of Ospreay according to their rules because he was a world champ for that company in the time that Ospreay has been there, or in the time that this list encompasses. I know, I'm sure what happened was they couldn't bring themselves to put Ospreay further down on the list because, like, he's the best wrestler in the world, probably. But then don't fucking do the kayfabe thing at all, because it's got to be either all or nothing, or none of it matters at all, which is that's ultimately what happens. They put Naito high up on the list because he's the IWGP champ, but Moxley was actually the IWGP champ for longer, so why isn't he higher than Naito? Gunther is 6 spots behind Ospreay, but Gunther held his secondary title for like way longer than Ospreay did. Nick Nemeth is like number 22, and all I could find of note for him was he was like the Triple A champ. Oh yeah, I mentioned that. Like El Patron's not even on the list. And this is where I discovered the thing that really made me really tanned my hide, and made me question Pro Wrestling Illustrated as an entity. And Gran Guerrero, I'm not very good with a Mexican accent. He's been the CMLL champ for like 2 years, and he was not even on the list. And CMLL is like the oldest, is the oldest, and it's the most successful Lucha Libre promotion on earth by far. CMLL, honestly, is number 2 behind WWE when it comes to like overall popularity, if we're being honest, because they just consistently sell out Arena Mexico, which is like 15,000 seats. They sell it out every week. And their biggest champ was not even on the list of top 500. But then I saw that like Vikingo was on the list. He's been on the list for a few years. There's a few other like luchadors that were on the list, and I was like, what? And it's just weirdly spaced out and no rhyme or reason. No, it didn't matter what like titles they held or success they had in their luchador or lucha libre promotions. And once I dug down into it, what it turned out was they don't put, PWI does not consider luchadors at all unless they have also worked in WWE, AEW, TNA, or New Japan, which is pretty fucking weird, guys. Particularly considering that the WWE is the only promotion that's like bigger than CMLL when it comes to attendance. Why would you ignore CMLL completely when it's a much bigger promotion than like New Japan? Seems kind of racist, to be honest. And say what you will about Dave Meltzer, I'm pretty sure he's not racist. I kind of think that the Pro Wrestling Illustrated editors might be, because I can't come up with another reason that makes any sense for leaving all of Lucha Libre promotions off their top 500 list. I hate the stupid list. I hope it goes away. It's like they behave as if they are still publishing a paper magazine and it is the year 1992. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the PWI Top 500. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for the regular Blue Thunder Pod episode that will be dropping. Same bat time, same bat channel as usual. Friday morning. I promise we do have that Turnbuckle Time Machine episode coming, the Rumble 2000. It's just a matter of myself and Aaron being able to sit down and get it recorded. And there are other surprises that should be coming just around the bend. Thank you guys for joining me here and listening. You can engage on our socials, Blue Thunder Pod on Twitter X, Blue Thunder Pod on TikTok, the Blue Thunder Pod on YouTube, and on the secondary YouTube channel, which I am now putting up video versions of all of these podcasts, is Blue Thunder Guy. you can find all of this stuff at bluethunderpod.com. Thanks for joining me, guys. Hope you stick around with me continuing on into the future, because I love doing this. And boy, howdy, do I love professional wrestling.
He's simply ravishing. He's sitting down the shade, he's happening, he knows that he's cool. All the girls going crazy, they don't know what to do. You steal your girl, break her heart, and leave you a fool. He's sitting ravishing, dazzling, ravishing. From through the garden, stepping right on time. The girls won't admit it, but they know he's fine. Got something to say, so listen up close. There he goes, taking off his robe. His body's chiseled, abs all in a row. You think he was sculptured by Michelangelo? He's bold and he's cocky, he struts like